Testing. Testing, testing. Yep. No, we're good. That works. Yep, we're good there. And content here. Make sure we've got the analytics right. Details. Good evening, everyone. We'll be with you in a second. We're just sorting out the YouTube part of this. So we've got the Facebook one, does it automatically for us, YouTube, and then I'll get with you very, very shortly. Just give me a second. Hey Steve, how are you, mate? I'll be with you in a sec, mate. Just give me a second to get everything and then we'll have a chat. Just finished a video forecast for the members, so I just made sure that that was uploaded. And we will be good to go in about 30 seconds, folks, so bear with me. Yep. Hey Richard, how are you, mate? Alrighty. We're going to kick things off while everyone's getting in. Probably the least interesting aspect of tonight. We're going to kick it off talking about Tropical Cyclone Iggy. For those of you that don't know, Tropical Cyclone Iggy was named by the Bureau today. It's located way out here in the southeast Indian Ocean. It's Category 1 system. It's never going to get within about 800 k's of the coastline. You can see there, expected to intensify a little. Category 2 at this stage, and then once it hits the skids, it'll move to the west fairly sharply. For those of you into the technical aspects of this cyclone, just wondering why we're confident it's not going to come towards the coastline, let me give you a quick look, and so that'll ease your minds in Western Australia to make sure that you're aware that this system is not coming your way. Right, so if we take a look here at the deep layer steering environment through the southeast Indian Ocean, we can see that the system at the moment is caught by an upper trough and also a monsoonal northwesterly deep layer flow. So we're looking here at tropical cyclone steering winds. I like to use the mid-range steering winds for a Category 1, Category 2 system. And you can see there that for the next day and a half, the system should be moving towards the coast. But then what you can see down here on the bottom left is a big mid-level ridge. Once that sets in, you can see the system begins to put on the skids, and then from there the system will start to move back to the west with the upper ridge. And so this is why we're supremely confident. We don't get much more confident than this when it comes to tropical cyclone forecasting, that this is not going to get anywhere near the northwest WA coastline. I think that's all we need to discuss on this one. It's a non-event. It is a Category 1 cyclone. It is Australia's 5th tropical cyclone, so that's good. Well, good, relative. It means it's a big start to the season, all right? So 4 of them haven't really impacted the coast. 1 has. Oh, no, that's a lie. 2 have. That other one, Haley, which just hit the coast just a couple of days ago, impacted a very small minority population area. So that's basically this one in a nutshell. G'day, folks. My name's Chris Nitzo. For those of you that haven't been with me on a live, we talk some of the most important facets of the weather currently. And, oops, sorry, I've got to talk in the mic. I've got to remember this, the live stuff. So we talk about the stuff that we're really interested in. And today we've got two topics we're interested in. We're interested in the development of a low off the coast of North Queensland, and we're also interested in the rainfall around northeast Queensland before that low develops. So they're the two topics we're talking about. So what I like to do is I like to give you my analysis and my forecast, and then if I haven't answered your question in that analysis or forecast, then you can go ahead and ask me something. Just try and keep it relevant, and what I would ask you to do, just let me ramble on for a little bit and then ask your question, because if you ask it too early, when I go back to look at questions, my little system may not be able to let me go back right to the start until after the broadcast, right? So don't ask your questions too early. Feel free to just comment and talk amongst yourselves, but if you're asking me a question, try and let me ramble for a bit and then ask your question after you think I've rambled enough. That way, when I go back through it, I can find it. First things first, Happy New Year. I hope you were able to enjoy yourselves. I know in Townsville it was a bit of a dreary old New Year, but it is what you make of it. So for a lot of us, it was a Happy New Year, I hope. Let's go over to, speaking of the devil, Townsville. Townsville region is where all the big action's at over the course of the next 48, 72, probably 96 hours. We've got a fairly big period of weather coming up for Townsville. Let me explain what's going on, and then we can have a look at some rainfall totals. Because if I don't explain what's going on, you're just going to look at the rain totals and you go, oh, Nitso said 200 mils. No. Let's have a look at what's going on so we understand the meteorology behind it. All right, so what we've got here, surface winds. Surface winds, you can see, are generally northerly to northeasterly for the area. And the expectation is that we could see little areas of rotation that pop up near the coastline. Now, we're not too concerned about these if they're offshore. What we're concerned about is if we see one of these that develops on the coast. Today we saw one right over Townsville this morning. We saw a little rotational eddy that developed over the western suburbs of Townsville and pushed down into the catchment zone. Just after the severe weather warning was taken off the Townsville district, that eddy popped up. That's just the way weather works sometimes, I guess. So that little eddy created a situation where we had 50 to 100 mils fairly quickly. And that's what we're looking for tonight, the possibility of these little eddies to form. Now, at this stage, this one looks like it might form offshore. So that means most of our heavy rain should probably be a touch offshore. Now, I say that with a little bit of a caveat because when we take a look at our deep layer steering flow, our thunderstorm steering winds, we can see that when we get to around about the southern Burdekin, there is a chance there that we may be able to sort of bring some of that offshore stuff onto the coast, right? So there is a little bit of doubt about how much rain falls tonight, but this primarily isn't a really heavy rain flow for the Townsville district. This primarily is a reasonable rainfall type setup for the Burdekin if we can get a convergence zone offshore. So right now, our big issue is going to be where will these eddies form overnight tonight. If they form on the coast, well then we will see very heavy rainfall. If they form just a touch off the coast, because of our deep layer steering winds, because our steering winds will take a lot of this deep convection that the eddies form and take it further offshore. All right, so our big primary threat area tonight is probably going to be the Burdekin region for any heavy rainfall, but you can see that there is potential for shower activity and storm activity throughout the Herbert Burdekin, and right now there's a severe thunderstorm warning for a storm around the edge of the Herbert Burdekin and the southern Kasserine coastline. Part of a fairly significant line of gusty thunderstorms through that area, all the way up through to Cooktown. It's a pretty impressive line for those that want to have a look at that. So that's what we're looking for tonight, right? We're looking for the likelihood of, and you can see this, look at this beautiful heavy rain. Well, I say beautiful, I shouldn't say beautiful, given the fact that we've had so much. So you can see here really, really heavy rain. Now, it's going to try its best to get to the coast, but remember what happened? Those steering winds are going to try and keep it just a touch offshore. All right, so we're watching for any of these to start rotating. If they start to rotate, especially if they start to rotate near or on the coastline, not near the coastline, on the coastline, what we would be then looking at is a period of extreme rainfall. And that's why there's a severe weather warning, not because we're guaranteeing that it could happen, or guaranteeing it will happen, but because there's the risk of it happening. All right, and that the risk is enough. The risk is enough, especially in the type of atmosphere that we have now, to see those extreme rainfalls on the coastline over a short period of time. So, for example, if you got yourself under that little area just to the north of Magnetic Island, between Magnetic Island and Palm Island, you're getting about 100 mils over 2 hours, potentially 200 mils over 3 or 4 hours. All right, so this is going to be a slow-moving convergence zone, and if that happened on the coast and there wasn't a warning for the coastline, all hell would have broken loose. All right, so that's what the warning's for, because these convergence maximums could develop on the coast. Now, most of the guidance is telling us tonight to expect it off the coast as opposed to on the coast. But it's going to be a very tight thing, and you don't want to be playing with these sort of fine lines and fine margins and not warning the public in case that comes onto the coast. All right, so that's the nature of the setup today into tonight. And I'm just going to use the AI modeling. All right, so we're looking here at the surface winds, and this is the convergence. So you can see the AI's got that pretty spot on, right? So that's our convergence. So where we're curving the flow, that's where we're creating our convergence zone. So right in there. So now we look at the middle and upper levels of the atmosphere. What are the different winds doing? We're trying to bring that convergence a touch closer to the coastline tonight, and then the mid-level winds, these winds are trying to push it a little more towards the Burdekin. And then the upper level winds, they're trying to push it more towards out to sea. So this is why everything isn't quite lining up tonight for a massive rain night, okay? So sure, there's the potential for it, but do we expect it? Probably not, unless you might be on a pocket of coastline that sort of juts out a little and can take advantage of that deeper layer flow, which is more westerly. So those places like Maggie Island, which are an island, or Palm Island, which is an island, who are offshore, they do have a chance of seeing some really heavy rain because of where those convergence zones are going to form. So the threat is there, and that's why there's a severe weather warning. So tomorrow morning, if you're waking up and not much rain, don't bitch and whinge that there was a severe weather warning and nothing happened. Just be thankful that nothing happened, because you were just outside of the convergence zone. All right, but it's very tight, and it's not one you want to be playing with. Cairns had one last 2 nights ago. Cairns had one that developed literally off Yarrabar's coastline. All right, and they weren't warned for it. But had that developed 10 or 20 k's further west, Cairns would have been waking up to 300 or 400 millimetres. All right, and everyone would have been going, what the hell just happened? All right, so that's the sort of fine lines we're dealing with around the Townsville coastline today and tonight. All right, this changes though, and we get more certain about heavy rainfall as the time goes on. So let me talk you through the Met side of things now. So our little circulation in our rotational area developing around just off the coast, right? Just off the coast. So the expectation as we go into tomorrow is we maintain the flow and we maintain the convergence. So you can see northeasterly, easterly flows squeezed together onto the Townsville coastline. Now, what's happening in our upper levels tomorrow? Let's have a look at our deep layer steering flow tomorrow. So these are our thunderstorm winds tomorrow. Now, do you see how the westerlies tomorrow aren't as strong in the mid-levels of the atmosphere? See how we've dropped those right back a bit? And see how then we're curving them back into the Burdekin, but even potentially curving them back into the Townsville district. So this makes heavier rainfall more likely on the coast tomorrow. Not certain, but much more likely than even tonight. And then as we continue this time frame, ooh, look what happened there. Did you see how the winds curved tomorrow night? Yeah, that's a problem. So what this means is when we take a look at our surface winds, we can see that we're still getting our convergence right off the coast of Townsville. And if it's like tonight, if the winds in the mid-levels were doing what they're doing tonight, we would see all of that rain stay out to sea again, or most of that rain, sorry, not all, most of that rain stay out to sea again. But in this situation tomorrow night, what's happening is we're getting the squeeze, and then in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, we've changed our mid-level flow pattern. So you can see our 700 hectopascal winds are now northerly. They're not northwesterly anymore. So this means that all the big rain that starts to pop up off the coast of Maggie Island and off the coast of Palm and off the coast of the Burdekin starts to push into the coastline now. It doesn't stay out to sea. It doesn't muck around and tease us. It actually comes into the coast. All right, so what happens here is we see a greater interest in bringing that rainfall, and you can see Townsville's about the western edge of that, because west of Townsville we still have northwesterlies, east of Townsville we have northerlies through the mid-levels. So that's going to drive the convergence zone and all the rain that the convergence zone causes into the coastline, not away from, repelling it from the coastline. So that's the change there tomorrow night. So we've got to be ready for very, very heavy rain on that section of coastline where the convergence is coming in, and then the mid-level winds are bringing that convergence down into the coastline. All right, so that's the plan tomorrow night. So tonight, the heaviest of the rain expected to be just offshore, but we can't guarantee it. We can't guarantee it because the mid-level winds aren't strong enough to guarantee us that they're going to keep that rain offshore. And that's why there's a severe weather warning tonight. I'd be very disappointed if the Bureau got rid of their severe weather warning. If nothing happened tonight, I would be extremely disappointed if the Bureau would get rid of their severe weather warning tomorrow night, because tomorrow night it really looks like it will happen. All right, so that's what we're looking for there. And then continuing on into Saturday morning, we continue to maintain significant rainfall. Once again, that same area, Ingham to Ayr, in that Townsville coastline. Very localised. Convergence zones are like that. Very localised. We get big areas, small areas of big rainfall all of a sudden. And the convergence zone isn't expected to shift very much. So we go back to our surface winds towards Saturday afternoon and evening. Where's the squeeze? Somewhere between Ingham and Townsville is where the squeeze is. What are our mid-level winds doing? They're going to bring all that squeezed airflow into Townsville. That's our 850s. That's our 700s. That's our 700s. And this is our 500s. So all of this heavy rain that's being squeezed because of the all of the squeeze that's creating the heavy rain offshore is now coming into the coastline. Not like tonight where it wants to tease us. And it's very, very close to the coast and just teases. From tomorrow night, it's all coming into the coast. And then we'll continue here. Into Saturday and Sunday, we maintain significant rainfall in this section. Cardwell to Ayr, potentially as far south as Bowen, but probably more so. The areas of most interest are going to be Ingham through to probably Alligator Creek. That's our area of greatest potential. Squeeze and then flow into, all right? So that's the expectation, and that continues through to Sunday and even into Sunday night. By Monday morning, this is where things get interesting, and this is what I'm sure a lot of you are going to ask me about. So by Monday morning, we start to develop a proper low, not one of these little sucky lows, the little sucky eddies that have been going on around the last few days. It becomes a proper low. So this is a much larger system. It's creating a much larger airflow pattern around it. And from here, this low, once it starts to develop deep convection, will start to move northeast away from the coastline. Once that happens, on Monday, we will start to see a decrease in rainfall, fairly sharp decrease in rainfall through the Townsville district. There will still be quite a few showers as the low is developing, but once it begins to properly develop and create that core structure with a lot of convection, that's when we see that clearance. Boaties beware though, just because the weather starts to clear doesn't mean your boating conditions improve. There is some very, very strong winds. Maybe even in offshore areas we could see winds resembling cyclonic winds. So we could see sustained winds at say around about that 30 to 35 knots, which is just under cyclone strength, and with gusts up around 40 to 45. So we don't want to be out on the water as this lows. In fact, in this region, we don't want to be out on the water at all in the next 2 to 3 days while all this mess is going on, because we could see one of these little tiny eddies at any time, and those little tiny eddies can create significant winds, not just rain. So once this low pushes, it pushes up to the northeast, and we clear out the region. All right, so we get to chill out. There is an end in sight to the rainfall. We can see the end. The end is sometime between Sunday night and Monday afternoon. That's the end of the rain for the Townsville district for the next little while. Now, you would have heard me say for the next little while. We'll get back to that in a sec. Total accumulated rainfall. What sort of numbers? All right, these are always going to be inaccurate because we know how much potential there is for the atmosphere to drive huge amounts of rain onto this section of coastline in that squeezed low-level flow with that mid-level flow driving all that rain into the coast. We know that we can get 2-3, we just saw it yesterday, we can get 200-300 mils on this section of coastline like that with that sort of thing. So the model here is telling us to expect the heaviest rain offshore, because remember tonight, a lot of the really heavy stuff tonight expected to be just a touch offshore, really close to the coast, but just a touch offshore. So that's why we're seeing overall the next 4 days, the possibility of the heaviest rain just a touch offshore. But that doesn't mean, once again, even tonight, doesn't mean we can't snag ourselves the tail edge of some of that convergence that's just offshore, right? So have your wits about you. Don't just assume there's not going to be rain tonight, because there's always a chance that we get sort of the tail edge or the southern edge of that nudging the coast. The good news there is we shouldn't get a hell of a lot of rain in the catchments from this type of setup over the next 24 hours, but from tomorrow night we could also see a lot of this rain spread to the catchments. Anyway, back to this chart. You can see significant rainfall expected basically anywhere from Cardwell down to Bowen, but with a particular focus between Ayr and Ingham. All right, so that's our area of the coastline that does best in this type of setup. I'll give you a quick look at some of the other modelling. I haven't looked at it myself, so I'm assuming that they're all going to be somewhere on board. They might not be quite as aggressive as this one, but generally, yep, there we go again, Cardwell to Kungulla, but potential for heavy rainfall all the way down to about Bowen and up towards Tully Innisfail. All right, but once again, you can see the max getting up around that 300 to 400 millimetre range, and that would be conservative. Can I just say that again? That's a conservative estimate. Understand, if we get into a convergence zone that doesn't move in this area, we are going to see a lot of rain very, very quickly. Okay, especially where we've got rolling stone mountain ranges. Mount Stewart's a mountain that can help to enhance the rainfall around that Alligator Creek area. All right, all these little areas. Ingham's got big mountain ranges just out the side. Ingham's surrounded by mountain ranges. So, and you've got Hinchinbrook Island up there. All right, so all of those things can help to enhance the rainfall from the convergence. Looking at some of the other models, first, our one that we talked about the other night, EC model. Very underestimative. Be careful with this model. It's a very good model at picking up where the convergence is going to be, but it is not a good North Queensland rain model. All right, and you'll see it plastered on Windy, and you'll see all the charts. It is not a good North Queensland rain model. One of the things with Windy, not with Windy, Windy's the company. One of the things with the EC is the fact that it will underestimate the rainfall from convergence, especially when piling up that convergence along mountain ranges and creating orographic lift as well. We've seen that time and time again. And in this North Queensland setup, the highest rainfall that the Euro predicted in this area over that period was about 400 to 500 millimetres. The highest rainfall we've recorded is over 1,200 millimetres. All right, so it doesn't do a great job. It does a great job at telling us overall patterns, and it does a great job with cyclones. It doesn't do a good job here in North-East Queensland, not when it comes to rainfall from this type of setup. So it will be under-representative and potentially significantly under-representative of the actual rainfall that you will get. And unfortunately, it's a model that the Bureau tends to put a lot of emphasis on when they're creating their forecast, and that's why a lot of the time they underestimate what the rainfall ends up becoming here. All right, this is the UK Met. This is a great model for the actual real estimation of rainfall. This model does extremely well in this type of setup. The problem with this model is it gets it in the wrong spot. So sometimes you've got to sort of combine the Euro model in where it thinks the rain's going to be, and then use these numbers as a guide for how much rain you're going to get. And you can see the numbers here, once again, pretty close, 300, 400, 500 mils, all right? That's the sort of numbers that we'd be expecting on this section of coastline if we can bring the convergence onto the coastline. And as I said, it does look likely that we can bring the convergence onto the coastline. Doesn't look as likely tonight. We're not hoping. We're thinking it might, maybe, possibly, but from tomorrow, we get a lot more confident. All right, that's the UK. Icon we don't use that one. Bureau of Meteorology's model, also a reasonable predictor when it comes to rainfall intensities. It can get a little bit too aggressive with the rainfall intensities, but you can see once again the possibility of 2 to 500 millimetres on that section of coastline. And once again, same areas, so no surprises are coming here. And the other thing you'll notice there, both the UK and the Bureau of Meteorology's model, they're very, very coastal. That means not a hell of a lot's falling inside the catchments. This is a very coastal event. All right. It may get a little bit more inland as we go through the weekend and we bring that convergence in a little bit stronger. But for the next couple of days, this is very highly coastal for that really intense rain. Alrighty, so that's the Townsville overview. Now, I want to take us, we talked about the system, the low pressure system, the proper low moving northeast away from the coast. So let's now have a look at what that system should do as it moves northeast. Bear with me while I get the charts up. By the way, while I've got you here, don't forget we have a subscription service, folks. Oh yeah, I forgot to give myself a plug, and then I forgot to give the Fair Dinkum Builds boys a plug. Fair Dinkum Builds on the top left there is our major sponsor, and we thank them every day for sponsoring us. And our subscription service gives you access to all my forecasts. Everything I'm telling you right now is being told to the subscribers at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning. All right, so all of this stuff we're talking about tonight, we've already talked about. So we've talked about the cyclones, we've talked about the Queensland Weather Week, talked about the Townsville area, when we're expecting the big rain. We talked about Mackay, we talked about the Cairns area, we talked about southern and central Queensland, inland Queensland, all this stuff for our subscribers every single day of the wet season. So if you want to support us, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It costs you, what is it, $32.95? Yeah, $32.95, all right, a year. It's not a month, it's 1 year. One yearly payment, you get all the forecasts. If you want a bit of extra stuff that we do, you've got $39.95 there, sorry, $39.95 here, and $69.95 if you want everything, all right? That's once a year payment. We're not asking you for your house. You're not asking you for a down payment on a house. It's $30. We don't get funded. The only way we get funded is from our generous subscribers and our, of course, generous sponsor. All right. Give me a sec. I know what I'm doing. My brain was working too fast and my fingers weren't. All right. So let's have a look. We've got a tropical low. I'm just trying to see if that's, yep, that's coming up. Good. Beautiful. So, and I'll just get our times up there. All right, so by Sunday, there's a chance at some broad rotation off the coast, right? As we go into Monday, the chance increases, we expect. So this is the difference, right? There's a chance of broad rotation off the coastline on Sunday. We expect broad rotation off the coast on Monday. That broad rotation on Tuesday should begin moving away to the east, slowly at first, slowly on Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then rapidly away to the east on Tuesday night into Wednesday. At the same time, and this is going to formulate a big problem for us later on, there's potential for a weak Gulf area of rotation as well. Now, I said, remember, we expect over here, we may see over here, all right? Understand the words I'm using. Expect the Coral Sea low, we may see a Gulf low. All right, as we continue, we see the Coral Sea low pushing eastwards, all right? So you can see pushing eastwards. And ordinarily, you know what we all think? Oh, yeah, it's gone off to the east, no problems. However, there's a problem. There is a problem. On Thursday, we're anticipating a really strong ridge to build through the mid-levels of the atmosphere. I'll show you what that looks like on a weather map shortly. And that drives the cyclone or the low back to the west, back towards the coast. And then as we push into Friday, we see the system pushing further back towards the coast. And as we go to Saturday, we see the system pushing further back towards the coast, potentially making landfall. All right, so you look at that and you start panicking and you're going, oh, Jesus, we're getting hit by a cyclone on Saturday. Wait. All right. So that was the probability of a tropical low. I want to show you what are the chances of this actually becoming a cyclone. So initially, what we may see by Monday is the probability of a tropical cyclone increases, but I name only, not necessarily the actual risk of a cyclone. What we may see is what I said when we were looking at the Townsville area, right? The chances are that we might see some cyclonic level winds offshore off the Townsville Cairns coastline, just because of the low and because of the big high coming in underneath it, creating what we call a pressure gradient squeeze. That creates strong winds on the south side of the system, right? That's, by the way, when you look at that chart, don't think that means 30% chance of a cyclone. No, it means that there is a 30% risk that we may see some cyclonic winds somewhere inside that orange, all right? That's a large area of orange, isn't it? All right, so that could be 250 k's off the coast. So don't stress when you look at that chart. As we go into day 3, or day 5, I think this is, it's Tuesday. So we can see here there's an even better chance that we might see a cyclone. Does this mean it's a tropical cyclone? No. It means that there's a chance there that we see cyclonic level winds on the south side of the circulation. The circulation will probably be on the northern part of this region, moving eastwards. As we go into Wednesday, the expectation is even greater that the system may produce cyclone level winds. And the reason it gets greater is because there's a big ridge now that's going to come up from the south, hold the system from moving eastwards, and then start to bring the system back. Now, as that ridge takes control of the cyclone, the expectation is big winds on the south side. Moving on. We get to Thursday and we see the system off the coast, staying off the coast, reasonable chance of becoming a cyclone. It's around about a 50% chance now. And now some of this may actually be real risk of tropical cyclone. So some of this 50 to 60% might be an actual risk of a tropical cyclone, all right? Moving into this time frame, towards the end of the week. You can see the system moving west. Not quite as clearly as it was moving west as a low, though. So you can see it's moving a lot slower to the west as a cyclone. And then as we go into Friday, you can see the system continues to track westwards. Saturday, notice that we've stopped tracking westwards. What's happened? What do you reckon might have happened? I'll tell you what happened. What we have here is an interaction between whatever's developing here, whether it's a low or a cyclone. We have an interaction between this system and that little annoying system that we looked at in the Gulf. All right, these two systems will have to have an interaction. If the Gulf system forms, there will be some type of interaction between these two. And that can throw our little cyclone, or low, off course. So we expect it to move west, but if there's an interaction with the Gulf low, there's potential for uncertainty about how that interaction will play out. There's no guarantee that it keeps moving west. There is potential there for uncertainty. We don't know if it gets all the way back to the coastline. And in fact, there are some models which suggest it might not get to the coastline from there because of this interaction. What I can say to you, we can't tell you what that interaction looks like right now because both of these haven't formed yet. As they form, we'll be able to understand what type of interaction we're looking at. When we're talking about binary interactions or Fujiwara interactions, there's 5 types, all right? There's 5 different types, and I'm not going to go through them all now, but there's 5 different types of potential interactions these two systems can have. So we don't know which of those 5 this potentially could take place. So we get to here, and that's where we lose all confidence in the forecast. So beyond Thursday, we really can't tell you where the system's going. So I don't want you thinking by Saturday you get whacked by a cyclone, because there's no guarantee of that at all. In fact, the probability of a cyclone making landfall anywhere is about 30%. So that means there's 70% or 7 out of 10 risk that this doesn't do that, all right? That it does something completely that we don't expect, something else. All right, so understand that, yes, if the cyclone was on its own, we would be a lot more confident and we could say between Cooktown and Mackay, you need to prep for a cyclone, all right? But because it's not on its own, because it has a little friend over here in the Gulf, and because of that potential interaction between the two rotational systems, we can't guarantee that that system is moving west. And that's why we don't want to panic here. That's why we haven't been talking about it, because we don't want to go off half-cocked talking about a cyclone impact on the coast when there's no guarantee that that is going to happen. So going back to this though, the probability of a low coming back at the coast, so let's say the system was a bit weaker, there is a much better chance if it's a low that it comes back towards the coast than there is if it's a tropical cyclone, believe it or not. So there's an actual moderate to high risk of a low coming back at the coast, but there's only a low to moderate risk of a cyclone coming back at the coast. So we do need to monitor it. I'm not going to say it's not coming onto the coast, but I'm also not going to go the other way and start scaring the shit out of you and telling you that you're about to get whacked by a cyclone, because both of those are irresponsible. If I said there's no cyclone risk, it'd be irresponsible, because there is, clearly there is. And if I said there is guaranteed cyclone risk, that's also irresponsible, because it's not guaranteed. All right, so both of those setups are not guaranteed. So we do need to keep an eye on this, no doubt about it, but it's also not a time to panic. The one good thing that you're going to see across North Queensland, and I'll just draw your attention to this part, is as this low pushes offshore, one of the things you're going to see is a clearance to some degree through most of the state. So we're going to see a period here where the weather's going to fine up, and we're going to be able to, by this time, Wednesday, we're going to be able to see where this low is, at what point will it put the skids on and start moving back, what's going on with this Gulf low? Is it even there, or is it a figment of our imagination? If it's a figment of our imagination, suddenly the cyclone risk has increased dramatically on the coastline, all right? But if there is a low there, our risk remains low to moderate, because we don't know how this low is going to interact with this low, all right? So, as we continue, we can see that Queensland fines up. So at this point, Wednesday, Thursday, you've got plenty of time to get yourselves ready if you need to. There's no guarantee you're going to need to. Do not start stressing and panicking and getting yourselves ready in the middle of a flood, all right? For Townsville folks, there's no need to start prepping your cyclone kits and wading through water to do it. Wait before the clearance will come on Monday. Then when we have a better opportunity to understand the dynamics between these rotational systems, then we can say, okay, get your cyclone kits together, all right? Get your disaster ready kits done, all right? And we've got plenty of time that week if we need to get that done. There's no rush on this. This system won't be coming onto the coast until at the very earliest Friday, I would say, and then more likely if it comes onto the coast, it wouldn't be coming onto the coast until Sunday, Monday, probably. All right, Friday earliest. So that gives you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with no rain. Let the floodwaters recede. Get yourselves settled, and then make a rational decision on whether you need to get prepared or whether this is just nothing to worry about, okay? There is absolutely no need to fall for any bullshit hype right now about a cyclone in the Coral Sea until we see the dynamics in play. So what I can tell you is that the system is, if it's on its own, likely to come towards the coast between Cooktown and Mackay. If it's on its own and it's not interacting with any other systems, the synoptic scale pattern should drive the system back to the coast. But that's a big if, because we're already seeing signs that there could be a Gulf low, and that will complicate everything. All right, that's my rant. That's my speech. That's all I've got for you for tonight. So I'm going to go back through and have a look at some of your questions and comments. Just want to make sure that our YouTube feed is still working. No, our YouTube feed must have stopped, eh? All right, I'll have to re-upload this for YouTube. Bloody hell! That's the second time this has happened in the last week and a half that YouTube just died. No heavy rain here in Pentland. Okay, so we're just going through some of the comments now, and Zabinator. No heavy rain here in Pentland. All right. I'll take that as a comment then, rather than a question. Just lost power in Cairns, no aircon or fans. Yeah, we had that, and this was pretty well modelled, I have to say. Kudos to the high-resolution model. It told us this was coming, and told us this was coming from last night. So, So there's the Cairns. So you can see there, big line of storms, gusty storms coming through. And I'm pretty sure I told the subscribers this morning. I think I even told you guys and girls on Facebook this morning that this line was coming through. So make sure you've got all your notifications for Weather IQ stuff, eh? Make sure you turn them on, otherwise you miss that sort of stuff. Yep, clearly there, some nice rain. I suspect some pretty nice wind too. Oh yeah, there's some nice wind there, all right. Yep, beautiful. That's a beautiful line of thunderstorms, monsoonal thunderstorms. We've got to love those monsoonal thunderstorms like that, goodness me. Super shit weather at McNabe. Yeah, I bet you it is. The whole country has been geoengineered spray. Yeah, Todd, we're not into that, bud. Alex Marston's gun show, stop it. Yeah, I say this, for all our live feeds, I usually take the dog, I've gone to the gym, I take the dog out for a walk, and hopefully by then all the pre-workout is out of me, and so I can be a little bit more rational and calm. Already flooded 2 days ago, says Mandy, from coming into our house. Freaky stuff, lucky we own a backhoe. Oh no, I've lost that. Oh, this is the problem when we get too many Facebook. No, that's better. Emma, is this going to mean Cairns is going to be muggy? Yes, Emma, Cairns will be muggy for at least the next few days until that low pushes offshore. Once that low pushes offshore, you get the southeasterlies, and that's going to get rid of the mugginess. Yes, Hannah, storm in Cairns, absolutely. Fair bit of squeezy squeeze over the weekend. Yeah, Tennyson, how you going, mate? Lots of squeezy squeeze. Vicky, hi Nitso, thank you, mate. No problems, Vicky. See, folks, it's the best weather forecast you'll ever get. Please join up to Weather IQ for your own safety. Well done, Nitso. If you're going to join, go to the top subscription as you get far more. Keep up the great work, mate. Thanks, Kelvin. Thanks for your endorsement, mate. And yep, as I say, we are fully self-funded, so that means without people's generous support and without people's subscriptions, we can't survive. And at the moment, we're doing very well there, and we thank every one of you for subscribing who do. And if those of you that are on the fence, keep an eye on our live videos, and then if you'll realise if it gives you value, you might want to go that extra mile and help us out as well. Right. Jackie, thanks Nitso and crew. No problems, Jackie. Neville, interesting. Yep, it sure is, mate. Fee used to be a subscriber and recommend, but renewal always fell a couple of days before Christmas, so I'll let it go. Oh, that sucks. That's all right. That's all right, mate. We all fall on hard times, Fee. That's all right. You'll get plenty of value just by looking at us on Facebook and even from these live updates, mate. You'll get plenty of value. I do it because I care. I give a shit, right? And I want to get rid of the misinformation. So that's why I do these ones for free. All right. So you'll get enough out of our free stuff. It's just that if you want to go the extra mile, there is a subscription service. This lightning and thunder show here in Cairns at the moment is absolutely crazy. Yep, that's what you get, mate. Beautiful monsoonal storms. What is your gut feeling, Nitso, on the low cyclone? Cosimo, I learnt a long time ago not to give the public my gut feeling. If you want to ask my gut feeling, you're a subscriber, mate. You can ask it in there. I'm happy to give you my gut feeling inside the subscription service. I don't want to be quoted in public giving a gut feeling. Gut feelings is not how this works. This works on data and it works on science, not gut feelings. So we'll have to do that one privately. If you want to ask me about that in the subscription service, please. The only way the yard gets cleaned up, threat of a cyclone. Yeah. You and I both, Marilyn. Nitty, Goltz, you're watching. Oh, Nifty Goltz, you're watching? Okay. Jay, keep it up north. Don't want it in Mackay. Hey, Jay, that's Jay from Jay and Dave on Triple M Mackay. We have good chats there. And I think he's on holidays, so good on you for tuning in, Jay. At this stage, mate, I'm not going to say no, but I'm saying that we're probably looking a little further north if it comes. Yeah, Kieran, I know YouTube dropped out, mate, so I'll have to do this Q&A. They got most of it, but I'll have to do this Q&A again. Looking at the ripples in the cloud, EMF and HARP. Yeah, no, that's not us, mate. YouTube crashed again. The bomb said there is a low case of hail tonight in Cairns. Oh, there you go. How good's that? You don't often see hail in Cairns. Amy, love that you understand what's needed in these scenarios and talk to us like only a North Queenslander would. Beats the fear-mongering of mainstream media. Yeah, it does, mate. And that's what gives me the shits too. The fear-mongering. And you know what gives me the shits more than anything, Amy? The idiots who think that we're part of the problem, right? We're the ones out here giving you the real information the way we see it, all right? And yeah, sometimes we need to hype it up because it deserves to be hyped up. like that northwest Queensland thing. That deserved to be hyped up because they got 0.5 metre of rain. That's their yearly average rainfall in about 3 or 4 days. All right, stuff like that deserves to get hyped up. If we see a Cat 5 cyclone coming at the Queensland coast tomorrow and we see no evidence to the contrary and we see absolute certainty in the scenario, tomorrow morning we're waking up and we're hyping the shit out of you because you need to be. You need to be pulled into action, all right? But we don't see that. We don't see that most times. And so there's no need to post cyclone maps 10 days out telling people to be prepared when you don't need to be prepared just yet. All right, you just relax. Just relax. We will know more at the start of the week, and by that stage, you're still going to have at least 3-4 days to get your shit together. All right, so there's no need to panic. Kathy, thanks for your dedication and explanation. No problems, Kathy. I enjoy doing it. Holy massive storm just happened, Cairns Northern Beaches. It was wild. Yep, sure looked wild on the radar. Definitely looked wild. I think it's over now. I'll just have a quick look. I'm pretty sure it was over. Yeah. It was pretty short but violent, eh? And we're expecting another one tomorrow. Let's have another look for those Cairns folk who are interested. Let me have a look here. Pretty confident we'll get another one of these big bursts tomorrow, right? Because that convergence zone is in Townsville and it's staying there. So that means that this area is going to be north of that. So we should get, as long as we get a bit of sun tomorrow, it should be all systems go for another big day. Yeah, the line probably not as well formed tomorrow, so maybe not as severe as today's, but certainly looks like some wild thunderstorms going through that region again tomorrow. So yeah, do expect a bit of a repeat, bud. Thanks, Nitzo. Wait for Monday's update. Yeah, Debs, wait for Monday, mate. We'll have a better idea Monday. Even Saturday, we might have a slightly better idea Saturday. James, I just came from YouTube. It was more of a video than a live feed. Not sure. Yeah. Freaking YouTube. YouTube keeps bumping us out. I don't know why. Yardo, great call as usual. Thanks, Nitzo. No problems. Stacey, you were on the money about the storms coming from the west in Cairns late afternoon, evening. You're fine, Stacey. You're not blowing me trumpet here, but I'm on the money more times than I'm not. A lot more times than I'm not. That's why you pay me the big bucks, $32.95 a year for those interested. Is this thunder and lightning storm here in Cairns due to ease off? Yes, Chris. We're not expecting the thunder and lightning to stick around for the whole night. No, it's all pretty much done and dusted now. It was just one really short, sharp, violent burst of weather. There it goes, gone. There might be a little bit of follow-up shower activity, very isolated, nothing big, mate. So that's Chris's question. I missed most of the stream. Is Townsville in for any more rain? Rachel, watch the first 15 minutes of the stream, buddy, when it happens. Look up, bro. I've got an aircon above me, so yep, cool. Giovanni Marie, aside from your subscription, which I may look getting, is there a single website or map that you would recommend for keeping an eye on information prior to you sharing things? For example, there's Windy and there's BOM, and then there's the American Weather Military Outlook, and all of these sites, I just don't know who to look at. You need to look at a variety, and you need to remember what you've looked at and remember how things perform. This is a question from Giovanna Marie. Excuse me. You need to look at a variety of different resources. The BOM are good at what they do, but they're very often very late on the piece. All right. Aside from today, where they did something terrible, but overall, they're usually good at what they do, but they're very late and very slow to the piece. If you want to be a little bit more proactive, you do need to start looking at those models. Like you mentioned there, Windy. Windy has a number of different models. So you can look at a number of different models and compare, and then see which model got it right. And then put a mental note next to that model. And then next time, look at all of them again. Which model got that one right? Put a mental note next to that one. Even if you got a little a little piece of paper, and just scribble, okay, this time Access G got it right, more right than the others. All right, so we remember that. So next time we see a big storm afternoon, we go to Axis G again and we have a look. And then we compare it to the others and we go, oh, Axis G got it right again. All right, we give it 2 ticks. And that's the way you start to learn which model might be better for your region. Because some models, as I showed you, the Euro model is really good at picking up all those little squeezy squeeze spots, right? Those little convergence spots, way better than the other models. But what the Euro model is not good at all is predicting rainfall amounts from that squeezy squeeze, all right? That's a terrible thing that the model does terribly with that. Whereas someone like the UK Met or the Bureau of Meteorology's model might be a lot more on the ball with that convergence rainfall, but they put it in the wrong spot. So they're the sort of things you're going to have to learn with time. All right, there's no one model that you can use all the time, bud. If it was that simple, we'd all be, 100% forecasters. It's not that simple, and it never will be. So it's a matter of keeping tabs on what model works for what setup and for your local area more than the others. Casey, good light show, just passed over Port Douglas. Yep, sure did. Yeah, Josh, I noticed that YouTube dropped out, mate. I don't know. I'm gonna send them a support email to see why that's happening. Jackie Curley. Hey, Jackie, hope you're okay after the big rain you had. Happy New Year, Weather IQ crew. Thank you, Jackie. Same to you and your family. Not really weather related, but how does it work for you? Do you go through all the data the day before? No, mate, I go through the data because I'm pretty experienced at looking at the data and I sort of understand the different areas and the way the weather works in the different areas of Northern Australia. I can pretty much go through the data very quick. All right, that's how I can sort of churn out video forecasts every 45 minutes to an hour because I don't need to sit there pondering over a model for ages because I know how that works and I know with the setup. So like tonight, that Townsville setup, you can see really potent setup for Townsville, but it's just potentially most potent just offshore. Right, so tonight we'd probably be anticipating our really, really, really heavy rain just offshore. We'll get some rain coming in from this stuff from the west, yep, but this really heavy stuff that's around Palm Island, that's going to want to stay there, and if it comes onto the coast, it might come onto the coast around the Burdekin. Right, so that's what we can see based on our knowledge. So it takes a lot of knowledge, Bear. Obviously, you need to understand the physics of what's going on. But a lot of knowledge, a lot of local knowledge about what works and what doesn't in a particular area, right? And that's how you sort of learn it. Because sometimes you look at a model and you can say straight away, it's full of shit, I'm not going to use it today, all right? Sometimes you do use it because you go, oh yeah, it's got merit, it makes sense. All right, so tonight it makes sense that most of our heaviest rainfall is going to be offshore. We could still see some rain for sure, and especially down the Burdekin, but heavier stuff, we're looking at this area tomorrow night for the really big stuff, all right? If you really cared, you would do your research. Oh, is this that? All right, Todd, I think we're going to ban you, bud. Yeah, we're not interested in this shit. We've already said we're not interested in that harp shit. Go spout that somewhere else, bud. That's not my area, right? It's not my area, and I don't give a shit. All right, I look at the physics behind the stuff that's going on. All right, if you want to talk harp, go find your little harp mates and go nuts. Go talk about that shit. Yeah, we're not looking at that low in the Gulf going to Darwin at this stage, mate. We're looking at that low just sitting around the Gulf and potentially interacting with the Coral Sea system. So this is Bradley. The YouTube stream dropped out. So Brad, we're not really looking at that Gulf low tracking west, mate. We're just looking at it sitting around the Gulf, and then we're looking at the idea of the interaction with the Coral Sea low, holding that Gulf low from trying to go west. So because those lows are so close together, they create some type of attraction force. Right? So they sort of attract each other. And as I say, there's going to be some type of interaction between those two. But for now, Brad, we're not looking at it go through Darwin. But listen, we'll have another look on Saturday. And if that changes, I'll let you know. I missed Townsville news, but I'm pretty sure I can watch it after the live is over. Yep, that's exactly right, KD. Nicky, love your work, Nitso. So interesting. Thanks, Nick. Rainfall tomorrow for Townsville. Do you think 200 plus tomorrow night? Yeah. I think there's a real case to be had for tomorrow night for Townsville, and even more case to be had the next night. What's the next night? Saturday night. Yeah, there's even a bigger case for massive rainfall in the Townsville area Saturday night. But there's a reasonable case tomorrow night for heavy rain too. Tonight, probably just north of Townsville. We'll still see some nice falls tonight for sure, but probably just north of Townsville overnight tonight is what we'd be anticipating. Chris, appreciate the detailed outlook, Nitso. Josh Morganman and I are monitoring this potential system closely. Too early to say much, but good to stay informed. Thanks for the info. No worries, Chris. Our big issue with this one, mate, isn't that it's not going to find itself in a nice environment. That Coral Sea should have reasonably low wind shear. We should have a nice little outflow channel, I would suspect. Might be a little bit of dry air with that mid-level ridge pushing in play. My big issue is going to be that it looks like a fairly loose, raggedy system, and it might take a long time to pull itself together and tighten up. Yeah, I'm just not seeing any real rapid intensification of this one at this stage. I'll tell you what, Chris, one of the things I'd be looking for, if this little low off the coast of Queensland stuffs around for too long, what I'd be looking for, some of the models in the last couple of runs, I don't know if you've noticed, but some of the models are picking up a low from the Solomon Islands, really sort of swooping in after about day 8, day 9, and just taking control of the Coral Sea. That might be an interesting scenario longer term if this one just stuffs around. So that's my thinking with this one, mate. So yeah, definitely interesting. But yeah, very interesting that you and Josh are interested in it. I would love to meet you if you do decide to come over. David, where's your mate Trevor? No idea, David. Fee, 211 millimeters in air. Yep, it's been a big day. Yeah, 211 at air. Oh yeah, that is a big day. Well done, Fee. Anything coming to Emerald? Probably nothing major. So who asked this? Matthew Raymond Toll. Let's go to Emerald. Last I checked, mate, there was nothing major, but I don't want to be speaking out of turn without having a quick look at the place, eh? Yeah, so we got a lot of light rain. So a lot of this light rain is the outflow streaming from some of the bigger thunderstorm activity through the northern interior. And I'm pretty confident here that we weren't seeing anything major for the area. I think we'll see perhaps an increase in rainfall so we've got a little bit of rain through the northwest of Claremont there. Tonight, particularly. Tomorrow, north of Emerald is where we're looking, mate. So you can see there some nice healthy rainfall up there through Moranbah and those sort of areas right up on the northern edge. But not much there that's sort of sparking our interest through Emerald, I'm sorry to say. I know you guys are really keen for some rain and you've missed out on a lot of the stuff. I'm not really seeing much for you there, mate. Sorry to give you a bit of bad news there. Kieran, been following Nitro since the Weather Zone forum days. Yeah, those are the days, a long time ago. Nitro, I like it. Every year I listen to your live updates every day. Well done. That's Adam. Thanks, Adam. Thank you very much. Still have a lot of thunder and lightning here in Cairns. Yeah, it should be heading out to sea though, Chris, so wouldn't be much longer in it. Oh, yes, John, you want to see the steering for that low next week. Let's have a quick look at that steering, mate. Now, just be aware, John, that because of the potential interaction with that Gulf circulation, that can throw something out of whack here for our steering. But if we just take a look at our thunderstorms, our tropical cyclone steering flow, I'm just going to move us into eastern Australia, so we've got a slightly better handle on what's going on east of the system too. So initially, it's a west to east influence, right? So we've got an upper level low going through the Tasman, and then we've got a continuation of a west to east steering that's expected through the Sunday, Monday. So keep an eye on the time frame down here. All right, keep an eye on that time frame. So we've then got another little shortwave trough that comes through. There it is there. See how it comes through the southeast corner? And then in behind the shortwave trough, we get this massive mid-level ridge. So that's this thing here, right, through central Australia. We're not talking about, by the way, when we're talking about a ridge, we're not talking about what you see on a weather map at the surface, right? This ridge is in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, okay? That's what drives cyclones and lows. Nothing at the surface will drive a cyclone and low in any direction. It's all about what's happening in the deep part of the troposphere. All right, so what we can see there is this big mid-level ridge comes in behind the upper trough, and see that there? See that there? It creates an east to west steering mechanism. All right, and that counterbalances the monsoon west to east mechanism. So now we have a system that from here should move towards the west due to the mid-level ridge to the south counteracting, not only counterbalancing, but potentially overpowering the monsoonal westerly. The problem that we've got is the same problem I've been talking about now for quite some time, mate, is we don't know how this is going to interact with any potential Gulf low. And that could create that binary interaction that can modify the steering in a more regional sort of scale. All right, so that we can see what the large scale steering is going to do. It's pretty clear cut, right? Big mid-level ridge driving the system west. But a more regional scale, there could be some interaction between the two that breaks down that steering ridge. All right, so we just don't know how that might operate longer term. All right. Hey Nitso, Andrew from Gordonvale, what are the winds doing offshore off Cairns tomorrow? Probably nothing, mate. It certainly wasn't flagging. Cairns, winds tomorrow, I can't imagine we're going to see anything too strong. Obviously, we've got to be careful because we got another line of storms coming tomorrow afternoon, so we don't want to be out there with those line of storms coming. Yeah, so we've got a fairly fresh northerly, and then that breaks down. Let me try and find this is the latest version here. So you can see here, fresh northerly. Obviously, we had the big storm line that came through, so winds were gusting up to 30 to 40 knots with the storm line. And then behind that, we should see a light wind, a light and variable wind. Tomorrow, the northerly kicks back in. And don't forget, tomorrow afternoon and evening, we expect to see another gusty line of storms, mate. But overall, as long as you avoid the storms, you should be okay. Mitchell Clark, do you think it'll be cleared out by the Cairns region by the 14th? Yeah, that's how long's a piece of string, mate? That's 14th is 11 days away. That's not something we want to sort of guess at. Sorry, Mitchell. Yeah, that's a question that's far too far into the future with too many unknowns right now, mate. So I don't want to give you any sort of indication that it will or it won't clear out by the 14th. We need to focus a little bit more in the here and now and over the next 5 to 7 days. Have you told everyone about the king tides in Cairns and Townsville tomorrow? No, I haven't, but we do have king tides. Cairns, don't worry about it, no issue. Townsville might be an issue, maybe not tomorrow, but Saturday, Sunday, when the really heavy rain kicks in for Townsville, those king tides will be an issue, and especially if that low starts to form on Sunday, not only are you going to have very heavy rain through Townsville, but you're also going to have the easterly winds, which will be piling that water into Townsville at the same time. So hopefully the low might just take a little bit of time to form, maybe Sunday night, Monday, so that king tide on Saturday, Sunday won't impact us as much. But it's the heavy rain aspect plus the king tide that's of primary concern for Townsville over the weekend. Yeah, I'm going to ban this Todd Crow. He's gone. This dickhead's gone. Right, if you can spare some rain, can it be sent to Emerald? Yeah, Matt, as I said, there's nothing there for your Emerald at the moment, except for maybe a bit of light patchy rain. Hey, Nitso, Happy New Year. Are the lows close enough for Fujiwara? Yeah, LK, that's what we're looking for, mate. We're thinking that there's going to be some type of interaction between the two lows, but we don't know the type. Now, Fujiwara has 5 different types of interactions, all right? And we don't know which of those this could be yet. We won't know that until we actually have 2 lows to look at. And then when we've got the 2 lows to look at, then we can go, right, this one's going to dominate the interaction. Or, no, they're going to sort of rotate around a central point. Or, this one's going to slingshot around this one. Or, this one's going to get absorbed into this one. All right, so we don't know what type of Fujiwara interaction we're going to have. But yes, you are correct. There could be some type of Fujiwara interaction between the two. Chris Matthews, thanks again for your excellent delivery, Nitso. Love your work. We need more people like you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for watching, mate. Appreciate it. Loving the videos. Just subscribed this morning. Keen for the next year. Good on you, Brad. Great to have you with us, mate. Thank you. Thanks for your support. How's Mackay going to be looking over the next week? Dale, I can't tell you how Mackay's going to be looking with regards to any cyclone potential because that's too far away. But what I can say is you're going to miss all the heavy rain from the Townsville district. We're not going to anticipate that coming down your way. So if we take a look at Mackay. So here we're anticipating that all the heavy rain will be sort of Bowen, Whitsunday, or north of Bowen and the Whitsundays. There is potential... So there is potential for some edge of the heavier shower activity to sort of nudge the Whitsundays as we go into Friday. So there is some potential there for the northern Whitsundays to get involved in some of that, but not to the point where we're looking at big rain for that area. Just perhaps an increase in showers, mate. A lot of light patchy rain pushing through the Mackay Whitsundays area, so it's going to be cloudy, drizzly, that sort of stuff through tomorrow. And then no major heavy rainfall is expected through this region. As I say, the only thing I would say to that is perhaps an increase in coastal showers at some point on the weekend. And that area, Bowen, Dingo Beach, Hamo, Prossie, those areas might start to see quite a few showers as all that stuff in Townsville happens. And then as the low develops, big increase in southeasterly winds could drive an increase in showers into Mackay on Monday due to the low. And you can see here at this stage, those winds, as I said, could be very, very strong through the Mackay Whitsundays, particularly the Whitsundays region, once that low starts to form. So you can see our winds starting to get up in that 20 to 30 knot range and gusting potentially up into the 30 to 40 knot range. So just something to be aware of there if you're a boatie north of Mackay, particularly on the Whitsundays northwards. Once that low forms off the coast of Townsville, it might get those winds might get quite strong. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. No worries. How long is this rain hanging around? Trev, we've talked about it, mate. We've talked about how long this rain's hanging around for. Check the first 15 minutes of this broadcast. That'll explain it. What weather stations and rain gauges do you recommend to use? It depends on your budget. I mean, the gold standard in Australia for weather stations, I'm not sponsored by them, but I'm happy to tell you, the gold standard for weather stations is a Davis, but you need a budget. They're not cheap. They're good pieces of kit, but they're not cheap. And they come with a really good warranty. Now, most folks for home weather stations will buy an EcoWit station. They're around 150, 200 bucks. They're great value for money. They got all the Wi-Fi, all the techie stuff. You can upload them to Underground like thousands and thousands of other Aussies have done. So that's probably a weather station for your average Joe who's got a suburban house. But if you're a farmer or a grazier, I would be definitely going with something either Davis or even something custom made, maybe from Campbell Scientific Australia. They're a really good company that custom makes weather stations, and those ones are for the serious people, the people on the land, right? The stuff that needs to be rugged, needs to withstand cyclones, needs to withstand storms, and needs to withstand droughts and all the cracking that comes with that. So those are sort of custom-made designs. But if you're just asking about your suburban weather station, EcoWit, great brand. You can buy it on Amazon. Wait till it's on special. You can get them on special for about 150 bucks. They're usually about 200 bucks, so it depends on how quickly you want it. So that's one. Subsidence. So Ian asks, if spin creates low pressure, what causes high pressure? Subsidence. When the air from the top of the atmosphere pushes down towards the surface. That's what creates high pressure. All right, so subsidence is the word that creates high pressure. Oh, thank you. One of our mods must have got in there and said, bye, Todd. Thank you very much, whoever our mod was that pissed that guy off. That was annoying. Bring Josh to Australia. Yeah, how good would that be? Josh Morgs. Coming to Australia. Fingers crossed. Anyway, no, look, I say fingers crossed because I want to see Morgs, but I don't say fingers crossed. I don't want to see death and destruction of a cyclone into North Queensland after a metre of rain. So, double-edged sword there. John Mack, last one from me. Were you surprised by the widespread nature of activity in southern Queensland last night? No, not really. I think we forecast 20 to 50 mils in that area. We forecast a big blob of rain in that area towards the back end of the day. So no, John, I wouldn't say I'd be surprised by what happened yesterday. And we always know that southeast Queensland tends to exceed, in isolated pockets, tends to exceed rainfall expectations. Maz, what would happen if the outlying low that may develop interacts with the two that are mucking around? Oh, Maz, listen, I'd love to answer you here, but we just don't know. We don't know how the two are going to interact. We don't want to enter player number 3. By the way, for those that want to know what Maz is talking about, so some of the models are saying that, this low here off the coast of North Queensland mucks around, doesn't do anything, just mucks around. The low in the Gulf mucks around. None of them want to do anything. So we get a swooper, comes in from out here. And this swooper comes in, takes control of the entire Coral Sea and just runs right into the coastline in a few model members, and in a number of others just decides to scare us and then duck off to the southeast, right? So that's the swooper, and I think I called it the swooper in tonight's subscription update. So that's just to give you an idea of what we'd be expecting there. So you can see there's a few model members that push that one onto the coast, but by and large, the expectation would be that this system would then pass harmlessly out towards New Caledonia and New Zealand. It's very difficult in the Coral Sea to get a situation where you've got a strong steering ridge that lasts for a week, right? And that's what we would need to see this swooper come in and get all the way to the coastline. We'd need that steering ridge to stay in place for a full week. It's very hard to do that in the Coral Sea. Almost guarantee that at some stage over the week there'll be a little upper level trough somewhere down to the south that'll erode the ridge. But anyway, that's the swooper scenario. We didn't even talk about the swooper because I think we've got our hands full with the other two first, making sure we know what those are going to do before we start thinking about the swooper. Thanks, Nitzo. At least it's a lot cooler than Mackay. In Mackay, yep. Don't trust the bomb anymore after they took our radar from Cairns years ago. It drove Macca mad on 4CA. Yeah. They do some questionable things, the bomb, I have to say, mate. I've got to agree with you there. But not to say not to trust them. There's a lot of smart people working at the bomb. A lot of good weather forecasters, good meteorologists. They're just hamstrung by a really shit organisation. And, you know, that's not a blight on them as forecasters. That's a blight on their organisation. Their organisation is terrible, but it's full. I reckon there's probably more middle management in the bomb now than there is actual meteorologists at the bomb. That's how shit they are at the moment with their thing. So listen, I'm not going to say don't trust the bomb, all right? The bomb needs to be a single point of truth for weather information in Australia, for sure, all right? We'll always say that. But they need to be better at what they do. And they need to be better at disseminating products, and they need to get it right. They need to get it right. They need to bring some more accuracy into their forecasts. Stop relying on computer models. We're not there yet. We're not the USA. The USA have some brilliant high-resolution computer models. We do not. We had a model yesterday that was telling us we were going to get 2,000 mils of rain on the coast near Cairns. We didn't get that in 36 hours. Right? We're not at a stage where we can trust our computer models without human input. America are so far ahead of us with that sort of stuff. So they can afford to automate their services. We can't. All right? And they can do well with it. And one of the things the USA, I love what the USA does. They split their agency and they have people that look after various states and various counties and things like that, right? So they actually have meteorologists in offices that know what the weather's doing. Bit like what we used to have in Australia before we decided to run everything from Melbourne. You know, half of the people that probably work as new Mets have never seen a tropical cyclone in real life, never witnessed what its effects are, don't understand what its effects are on that different populations depending on, you know, topography and orientation of coastlines and orientation of wind fields. They don't know that sort of stuff, right? They see it on a computer model, but they don't understand it. And that's my problem, is they're trying to run everything out of Melbourne, and we don't have the technological advancement at the moment to do it. Put the meteorologists back on the ground, out in the country areas, and service the country like you're supposed to. Don't just run everything out of Melbourne. That's my biggest gripe, and we see it time and time again how the whole thing is run so poorly out of these capital cities. It's not just Melbourne. Melbourne's their headquarters, but Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, right? So it's just run so poorly for the country areas. I mean, they do a great job for Brisbane. No one ever whinges about Brisbane. No one whinges about Sydney. No one whinges about Melbourne. But they do not do a good job in North Queensland. They do not do a good job in the Northern Territory. They do not do a good job in Northern WA. In these tropical areas, they don't do a good job at all. All right? We've seen times where storms have gone through Darwin, and an hour after they've received 100-kilometre-an-hour winds, we finally get a severe thunderstorm warning for Darwin, and the storm's halfway to Timor. right? I mean, that's sort of stupidness. How does that happen? You know, it doesn't happen when you shouldn't happen when you've got meteorologists on the ground who can see the massive wall cloud or the massive roll cloud or whatever it is, the shelf cloud coming ahead of the storm. They can go, holy shit, this has got some wind in it. Let's issue a severe thunderstorm warning straight away. Within 2 minutes, it's out. Right? That's the sort of stuff we no longer have. And yeah, it just frustrates me. Anyway. All right. Paula, thank you for all your wonderful advice, not to mention your hilarious comments, like a swooper. You have your own dictionary. Yeah. My favourite one, and I use it quite often, is tits on a bull. Absolutely useless. And that's what sometimes our models are, absolutely useless. Tits on a bull, that's my favourite. All right. David, that's why JB and Tammy trust your weather forecast on Triple M in Cairns. Good stuff. Hey, JB and Tammy, shout out to you guys, Triple M. We talk quite frequently when there's a lot of weather around. Hitting the reef off Lucinda tomorrow, you reckon it'll be okay? Yeah, I think Lucinda's probably just north of where these rotational areas are going to form, mate. This one will be my last question, by the way. The reef off Lucinda. Obviously, the big thing that we've got to remember over Townsville is going to be, and Lucinda, is going to be that we could see those little rotational areas. See this here? What am I talking to there? Brad Wilson. See this here, mate? So you might get off Lucinda tomorrow and it might be glass, right? It might be 0 to 5 knots. But the problem is that if something starts to rotate along this trough line, I can't guarantee that Lucinda's going to stay 0 to 5 knots. It can quickly jump up to 20, 25 knots if the spin happens in the wrong place. Do you understand? So it's a highly volatile environment. This whole Herbert, Burdekin coastline, it's not just about the rain, it's also about the wind. The wind can jump up at a moment's notice here while we're on the water. And that's why I don't want to tell you you're going to be okay, because I know that may not necessarily be the truth, especially if we get an area of convergence that forms near the coast. Alrighty. Handy as an ashtray on a motorbike. I love that. On that note, I'm going to leave you. Have a good night. I will talk to you again in 2 nights. Unless you're a subscriber, I'll be talking to you tomorrow morning. All right? If you want to support us, $32.95 a year, folks. It's not much. $32.95 a year. It's 5 cups of coffee. Have a good night and talk soon.